Rockstar, right?
The Rockstar. They made a very specific point. It's the Rockstar, which is the name of the monster of the week this time.
Sorta,
yeah. Ironically, the monster of the week was actually Scorpina.
And a bit of Goldar.
And apparently the stock footage.
Yeah. This was definitely sort of a filler episode.
It's definitely interesting. Like, it feels like this is one of those episodes that it doesn't have Tommy in it, which is,
this is one of the Sentai episodes after Dragon Ranger, or maybe before. Hard to say. They aired it out of order. But they didn't really explain Tommy's absence.
And, with a lot of these Power Ranger episodes, sometimes it's really easy to get the stock footage to work with the basis of the episode. And then there are occasions where, the stock footage is really kind of working almost against the plot of the Ranger episode, the American Ranger episode. This episode very much aligns with that. The environment changes all over the place. Like, they go from what's very clearly a beach in California to suddenly Japanese cliffs, a resort town, the jungle, which then goes into the local woods, and what was also very clearly jungle. Yeah. And they just switch all over the place. Apparently, Angel Grove is just the most diverse geographic landscape on the planet.
Plot's a little, I'm not even sure. It starts with all the core Rangers except Jason going on a field trip.
I thought it was like some kind of concert or something.
No, they said field trip, but it wasn't like a school one. They went in their own car, and that really didn't amount to anything.
Because they
just took him off screen for a bit while Jason's, I think he said cousin or nephew?
Cousin.
His little cousin comes by, and he's the traditional, wow, you're so cool, I want to be a Power Ranger kid.
Right, and also, we brought up something else I was thinking about, is that, these putties are supposed to be Rita's elite warriors, to the point of which there was an episode earlier where Rita was actually unsatisfied with the strength of her putties, and so made super putties and made extra powerful putties.
Yeah.
So now the putties are actually even supposed to be extra powerful putties.
Sort of implied the super putties went away after they got the Thunder Slingers.
Kind of, but also there's that idea of constantly rising stakes.
Yeah, that's not something Rita's good at.
Right, and Jeremy, the cousin, literally could take on two of these things that the Ranger's supposed to take.
Well, what they were going for was that he beat them the same way he saw Jason fight Bulk. Yeah, Bulk. Oh yeah, that's something. As food in this episode. Trini makes brownies with escargot in them, and Bulk has this chili pizza.
Sloppy Joe pizza.
A Sloppy Joe pizza. Yeah.
And it looks vile. It wasn't great. Bulk and Skull, it's actually interesting to see them actually try to be legit bullies in an episode rather than just pure comic relief.
I mean, early episode, they did have that scene where they flip Billy upside down to get quarters.
Right,
but yeah,
it is kind of hard to be, bullies in an episode where all your main cast are have superpowers.
I think you mean series, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what happens? Well, Jason kind of makes fun of him for spilling sauce on his shirt. Bulk tries to pick a fight with Jason. Great idea. Pick a fight with a black belt whom you've already shown numerous times you can't take. Jason doesn't hit him. He just dodges him, makes him beat himself, trying to teach the lesson of this episode, which is mind before brawn.
Right, and it's a good lesson. It works to a degree. I am a little confused about, Rita's plan with the Mirror of Destruction, because apparently this is some ancient, powerful artifact that they don't really explain where it comes from or how it disappeared, but apparently it could just be found under a rock on some random generic beach in California.
Well, to be fair, it's a beach that goes Cali and Japan, so it's kind of hard to find.
Oh, right, sure. It's one of those amazing, magnificent California Japanese beaches which exist all over the place.
With a resort and a pool. I don't know why you need a pool when you have a beach, but marketing.
This episode, again, it's weird Because it's all like the characters teleport.
Yeah.
More so than in any other episode, I think in recent memory.
The teleportation is usually how they explain the sudden climate change, but they also had Jeremy wandering around, so it's implied they didn't go very far.
Exactly. That was
like the four Rangers left for the trip, and then Zordon calls them back, so they just warp back to the beach and never go back to their trip. So they just kind of abandoned their car, by the way.
No one uses the car.
Oh, Blue Ranger wasn't in the fight right away, so Billy says, "I'll go find Jeremy while the others fight."
Except that very clearly in the background of one of the stock footage scenes, you mentioned the original Blue Ranger is unmorphed fighting in the background.
Oh, he's not fighting. He's like struggling to get up. And to be fair, if you didn't know that, you'd just assume it was some random person who was hurt in the fight. There's no real indication that was Dan, Tricera Ranger Dan. But the thing is, the stock footage is a mess. They're always like having the Jason or Jeremy interact from like cut away. Hey, there's Scorpina. Oh, off screen. I'm reacting to you. It's clearly not the same area. And Billy doesn't even find Jeremy. He just goes right back to the fight.
Right. At a certain point, it's like, I'll go find Jeremy. Runs off. And then later in the episode,
he's just in the fight.
Never mind. Fight! Like,
thanks. Gotta bleep that, but okay.
But, it's...
Oh, and the Monster of the Week, the Rockstar, is actually defeated by Jeremy. He opens the mirror. And the mirror, if you look in it, you get destroyed.
Which they do not explain at all. Like, they show stock footage of it happening, but I get the implication that the mirror was part of a much larger storyline.
Well, it had a little more backstory, but it still was a one-off thing. Basically, here's a destructive thing. Rita thinks she can get it while the Rangers are away, but Jason's there, so obviously she has to attack him first and make him suspicious.
Right. Had she, done nothing, they could have acquired the Mirror of Destruction, and it wouldn't have mattered to anything.
Well, to be fair, none of her henchmen seem very good at stealth.
Fair, but again, this is one of those episodes where Rita literally could have left well enough alone, and none of the Power Rangers would have actually gotten involved in the fight.
Yeah, the Megazord fight was just Scorpina and Goldar who jumps in.
Right, and that lasts for a very short time. They destroy the mirror, and then Scorpina and Goldar just, blink away.
Oh, and then it ends at the juice bar with Jeremy geeking out over the Rangers, meeting them.
To the Rangers.
Yep.
Because he doesn't know that they're the Rangers.
No.
It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious who the Rangers are.
Well, didn't you see episode 2? They're aliens. Wait, no, but they're not aliens. Not till season 3. Wink. Well, as much as the episode was a mess, like I'm having trouble explaining it, I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't either. It was fun. Like, this is exactly the kind of campy, lighthearted filler that makes for good Power Rangers. We acknowledge that. Is it messy? Absolutely. Are there problems with it? Absolutely.
But it's like, who cares?
It's fun.
It's like, who cares?
Yeah, it's fun.
It didn't do anything criminal. I mean, the most cringe thing for this guy, at least, was when Jeremy geeked out and you went like this.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like the whole, like, kids being overly enthusiastic thing in television. I don't know. It's just, for me, it feels like kids would be a little bit more reserved around strangers.
They would, but thing is, at that time period in the 90s, it was mayhem whenever there was a meeting for the Rangers. There were reports of parents knocking over other parents' kids just to get their kid an autograph. One time, Walter Jones, a.k.a. Zach, was on a date. Some mother came up to him and just grabbed his arm and said, "You're coming with me." Dragged him somewhere to get autographs for her kid.
Yeah, so, I mean, the episode is good. I definitely recommend checking it out. Like, be aware it's got its problems. It's kind of, I think, in a lot of ways, you could kind of consider it the quintessential campy filler Power Rangers episode.
If I was trying to teach someone about stock footage, this is probably the episode I'd use as an example.
Right. How maybe not to use it. But I also don't know, based upon the content that they had,
I mean,
it could have been better.
I guess they could have just had the Rangers go to a resort on a vacation and cut out Jeremy.
I think that would have actually worked a lot better towards syncing it up.
Maybe, just 5 of them got the trip, which would be why Tommy's not there, who, by the way, they never explain why he's not there.
Exactly. We're just going to pretend like...
But at the same time, you gotta remember, people, this was TV, not streaming time, so most people didn't watch episodes in order. Serial, episodic thing. This is mostly episodic, but it's never, directly retconned.
That's a good point, yeah. But, again, I'm not unsatisfied. I think it's fun. It's fine.
Not an episode I'd seek out, but if I was watching the show, I wouldn't skip it. On it. So, what do you say? I'm just going to give it a solid 3.
I think a solid 3 is good. It's average. It's not offensive. It's not terrible. It could be better, but it's fun. I laughed and enjoyed myself.
And it's definitely been a lot worse.
Exactly. And also, even if it's not great, you can laugh at it. You can make fun of it. And that's a good time in and of itself as well.
Yeah. Jeremy, we will never see again. But I swear that kid looks familiar.
Apparently, I looked him up. The only other thing he's been in was in an episode of Saved by the Bell. Other than that, he's like a musician.
Well, hey, good on him. Vulcan Skull disappeared after losing that fight. Probably embarrassment.
Probably.
Well, the good actor for Bulk once said in an interview, in his mind for the character, he says they do that and then they go home and cry. That's his idea of what Bulk and Skull were like. Help! So that was episode 30. Just 10 more before they decided to make the show longer. Then we get to the awesome Zhu 2 footage, which is stock footage made specifically for Power Rangers.
Well, this ought to be a lot more interesting in terms of... I'm interested to see, since we have this episode, how the custom-made stock footage will integrate with Power Rangers.
Well, it was, it is still stock footage, but it was made specifically with Ranger canon in mind, like having the Rangers talk on their wrist instead of telepathically, having the yellow one act more feminine, etc. I'll explain when we get to that point.
Right.
Anyway,
next episode is going to be Calamity Kimberly, episode 31.
Calamity Kimberly. I don't remember that, but I do love that name. Well, till next time, this has been 1 plus 2. Not really, it's just 2 guys in hats. I'm your White Ranger, the Ghost Ranger.
And I'm Green Phoenix.
Also known as Zach and Joe. Till next time.
Ranger!